So, is it too early to be thinking about spring? I mean, technically winter hasn't even started yet, and I'm already wishing I was out in the boat and fishing again. Well, for the lure today that we're going to paint, we're going to think about that early spring and one of those first times we get out. And one of the lures I love to use at that time of the year is a lipless crankbait, and this one happens to be called the Gravedigger style. We're going to paint this in a crawdad pattern. Today we'll be using the helping hands, seeing as how we don't have a square bill to hang on to with this one, so we got to do it by the hook hangers. We're going to do this, as I said, the crawdad pattern, but I'm also going to use the wrap. I haven't done a wrap in a while, so I thought I'd like to do that one, kind of change things up a bit. So if we're going to do the wrap, that means we need the color that's going to show through from underneath our main color, and for that I thought we were going to go ahead and use the pearlized copper by Createx. So we'll do a pearlized Createx copper, and that'll be the first coat we put on. And we'll get a good even coat everywhere, because all we want to do now is put this on, then we're going to put our wrap on, and then we're going to start painting. There we go. Got it all copper. Now, as in all the other times, if we're going to do a wrap on this, we've got to really get this good and dry. So I'm going to put the heat gun on it, and we'll get a really good dry on this. And then we'll move on. Alright, we're good and dry. We're ready to put on the wrap. Boy, I like that gold color. I'm going to have to paint one of these, this copper, pearlized copper color later. I really like that color on there. That looks kind of cool. Might come up with something variation to do with that. Alright, we're going to take the wrap. I'm using the one with the biggest holes in it. We're going to try that one. And as I've said before, I tend to use hair breadths instead of all the little alligator clips, because I don't have to use nearly as many of them to get the job done. And for the most part, it seems to me they still work real well. Get a nice tight hold on there. That's going to be good. Pull that down good. Get one more grip on that. There we go. Get a good tight grip. There we go. Alright, let's come back to our helping hands here. We got our grip on it. Now, no matter what color we're going to paint, as we've always done in the past, find my paint here, the first thing we're going to need to do is put on a base coat of opaque white to cover this whole thing up, because that way whenever we put our regular color on, that color will be accurate and it won't be thrown off by the darker undercover, which in this case happens to be the copper. So now we'll just give it a coating of white. And as I've said in the past, front to back, back to front, we want to make sure we cover all sides. When that wrap is on there, that wrap sticks up. And if you only paint from one side, there's spots you'll miss. Later on we'll want to do that because we're going to give it kind of a shadowing effect later. And there we go. There's our base coat of white. Let me put a heat set on it and dry it, and then we'll move on and get ready for the next step of painting. We got the white all done. Now, if there's one thing I've always said, for me, lipless crankbaits early in the spring, I love red lipless crankbaits early in the spring, so that's what we're going to do here. And we're going to use a Createx color, but this is the Wicked line. Now, these are a little bit thicker, so I had to thin that down just a little bit here. This is the Pearl Red from Wicked, but now this is not quite as pearlized as the normal pearlized colors I use. So even though it says a pearl red, it's not going to be quite like you've seen when I've done pearlized blue or copper or anything else. We're going to do it red. We're going to go front to back. And remember, we don't want to come the other direction. We want to go one direction only. So maybe a little bit of white will still show up to give kind of a shadowy effect. So we're just going to go front to back. And the whole thing's going to be red. Alright, now in the case of this, I thin this a little, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put a heat set and dry this, then I'm going to come back and put just a little bit more on, so I know I got a good heavy coat on here, considering I thinned the paint some. Alright, there we go. I now have a coat, a heat set, a second coat, and a real important heat set the second time, because let's remember, as I always said, don't try taking your wrap off until you make sure you've got that heat set and totally dry. So, ooh, that's a little warm. Alright, let's take our wrap off and see what we got here. Ooh, there we go. There we are. Let's see what we got here. Got our red, we got our gold. As I said, by spraying one way, you can see a little bit of the white here there. You know, that's not a half bad looking lure right there the way it stands, and you could probably leave it that way. But like I said, we were going to make this a crawdad, so let's move on to the next step and let's turn this into a crawdad. Now in order to get our crawdad effect, we're going to use a stencil that I've shown you once before. I just made it out of some clear plastic. And to put our markings in for the crawdad markings, we're going to use the Createx Opaque Black. Now, when I painted everything else so far, I've been running right at about 40 pounds of air pressure to put on the initial paint. But now, we're going to get a little bit more delicate, so I've run the compressor down to, I'm going to run about somewhere between 7 and 10 pounds of pressure. And now when I paint, I want to paint on top of the stencil. I'm going to paint right on the edge of this, go around this round part, and just kind of let it drift out here off the edge. That's what I want to show up. And we'll see what we can do here where you can see it. I don't know, my hands will probably get in the way here. It's kind of tight work. But we'll just put the stencil on. I kind of put one finger up underneath the lure to hold it, support it a little. Bit more there. Bingo, there we go. Wipe off the excess towel. Now we'll go again. I'll come back to the same thing. I'll just move it back a little bit. Well, there's number 2. If you can see that, there's 2 of them on there for now. Come back and put one more on. Get that one finger underneath the lure to support it a little. And there's number 3. So we have 3 on this side. Wipe the excess. Now, as I've done on the other, we're going to stand it up. We want to make sure we hit those. We want to make sure we can see those. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start here at this end. I'm going to put right on top of it. That'll put a little stripe right on the back. And it's just enough so when I tip this over to the other side, I'm going to be able to see that. So I'll know to put the right side, line them up with the left side. Alright, now I got to turn my stencil over. And we'll set that right there. Again, one finger underneath to kind of support it. Shooting paint on the stencil. And letting the blow-by taper over on the lure itself. Number 2. One more to go. I'm in crawdad patterns. I'm still working on them. I don't consider myself that good on the crawdad pattern yet. Yeah, a little more work, and me and stencils, I'm not sure, but there we go. Okay, there's 3 on that side, 3 on this side. Now, I want to come right down the back, and I'm going to put black right across the nose, right down the back. We're going to leave it at 10, because I don't want to put a lot out here. You go right down the back, 1 stripe down the top, and that is just a real quick boom. You can see it kind of tapers a little bit to the edge, not much. I want to leave most of that red there. And there we have it. I've got a red Gravedigger craw with a little gold, and the white shows up, the black on top. We're going to put a pair of eyes. Now normally, you've seen, if you've done enough of my videos, you've seen I love the red eyes, but of course this is not going to be a case for red. We're going to have to put a different color of eyes in here. I'm going to have to go through the eye bank and see what I got that I can give him. Alright, I found some yellow eyes. So, we are going to give him yellow eyes. Little dab of glue at the eye sockets to start with. Help it out a little bit. Now the toothpick to pull the eye out. Ooh, that's kind of looking good. I like that. One for the other side. There we go. All right. I like that yellow eye. Let me see if I can get you in a little closer. You can see that a little better. Get it down here where the camera. Well, I got to get in front of the camera. There we go. Alright. We'll put a top coat on this, and then we'll be able to get a real good picture of it and show you what we got at the end. But basically, there's our lipless crankbait, the Gravedigger style, in a red craw pattern. Get a top coat on that, and we'll show you what I got when we get done with it. Well, there you have it, guys. The Gravedigger style lipless crankbait in a red crawdad pattern. Not too tough to do, and that red color early in the spring sure does pick up the bass. Thanks for sticking with me. Subscribe to our channel if you would. Hope to see you again real soon.